radio desk basics and radio enthusiasts. Are you planning on moving on to a different part of the hobby? How about amateur radio? If you're thinking about it, stay tuned. This is Jeffrey, AD7LN. Welcome back to the radio room. Okay, let's talk about radio desk basics. For those that are just starting in the amateur radio world or any kind of radio hobby in general, you're all going to want to have your radio equipment on something, whether it's a table, most likely a desk, and let's just say for regular purposes right now, this is the desk. As horrible as I'm doing here, just so you can see that, you know, I don't know. Anyway, there's a drawer there, drawer there, drawer there. Anyway, you get the idea. So, let's just say this is the surface. This is the surface of the desk right here, the top. And if you're going to have equipment on here, let's see, here's a radio. Here's a radio. Here's a power supply. Here's a tuner. You know. You know what I'm getting at here. Anyway. So, as far as desks and tables are concerned, that's probably the best way you want to go, because if you start putting radio equipment in a tower configuration or in an enclosed box of any kind, of course you're going to gain a lot of heat in that enclosure, that tower, the rack system. You can put fans in the back inside to cool the equipment down. However, you'll find that if you're a radio operator, a DXer, you're not going to want all that noise. If a fan kicks on, it'll be the fan that's in the radio or in the power supply or in the amplifier. You don't want more fans than is necessary to cool down the equipment, because it just makes more noise for you to overcome to listen to your distant DX or whatever you're trying to hear on the radio. A desk or a table is definitely the best way to go, because your radio equipment is out in the open. It's free to release the heat from each device, and that's all well and good. Let's say you start getting along in the hobby and you're going, well, you know, I don't have enough room on my desk anymore, so I'm going to make myself a little stand here out of wood that'll give me double the stacking, instead of just stacking radios on top of radios. So you've got, let's say, level 1 here. Here's level 2. And let's even say that later on down the road, you went up to a third level. because you have so much equipment that it's taking up every little bit of space here that you've got. So, and you can go on and on and on. Well, you'll find that in this event, and I've seen it many times, radio operators will just stack anything and everything on top of everything and anything, and you run into problems. You run into heat dissipation depending on what you've stacked what on top of, and depending what you've stacked what on top of. Sometimes you will get 60 hertz input into one of your radios. Say this power supply right here. Sometimes when people are just starting out, they want to stack their first VHF or UHF or HF radio right on top of their power supply. So it's up off the table. It's up off the surface of the desk. Well, the problem with that is, here's a power supply, and here's a radio. And what happens is, when you're transmitting on that radio, this power supply is introducing 60 hertz hum into that radio because the radio is too close to the power supply. Not only that, but because the power or the radio is on top of the power supply, and the holes that are made on the power supply at the top, which are allowed to release the heat from the power supply, are being blocked off by this radio sitting on the power supply, thus making the power supply too hot and reducing the life of that power supply by quite a bit. So yeah, power supplies, linear amplifiers, radios, they all make heat. It's best not to have them enclosed. It's best not to have them stacked right on top of each other. If you're going to stack them all up on a desk, you want to make sure that they're on some sort of wooden device or made of some substance that allows for airspace. See the airspace up here. If you got more radios up here, there's still airspace up here. Same applies for here. So just imagine these are all pieces of radio equipment. Of course, airspace up here. What else can I say about the airspace and the added noise? Oh yes, as far as ergonomics, while using radios at a radio desk, you want to make sure that, well, if you've ever seen any operators out in the field or a contester working a radio during a contest, they are right on top of that radio. They're operating the mic, looking right at the radio. It's only this far away from their face. They are operating it. Well, that's the main thing here, is what radios you're going to be operating the most, you want to have closest to you in the center where the chair would be, and closest to you so that you don't have to extend your reach out every time you need to adjust the frequency or the volume or whatever needs to be adjusted. The radios you use the most, you want up front. And any equipment that you use a lot during your session of using a radio, you want up front. Anything up on level, and that would be on level 1, anything up on level 2 and level 3, as you can see, you're having to reach higher and higher to get to any of these levels up here. So these level 2 and level 3 are for tuners, antenna rotators, speakers, etc. Everything that isn't the main radio that you're using, which should be down low and easy to grab immediately. And while we're at that point too, as far as a chair, to have a chair, since you're going to be in your home using something like this, it's best to have a comfortable, maybe semi-plush chair with a high back, maybe armrests. It depends on your taste and how well your back is, or how old you are like I am. And adjustable chairs for height is a good thing to have, like an office chair, for the fact that sometimes you need to raise up higher to be able to reach level 2 or level 3, depending on what you're going to be doing radio-wise. If you're just going to sit back and chat with some locals on one frequency and leave the radio alone, yeah, you can lower the seat, tilt it back. You still have access to level 1. And so that goes. As far as a tip that I can give you guys, on the surface of the desk at level 1, there's going to be a distance between where your stomach is and the first radio. There's going to be an open space where you can have your notebook with your pen or pencil. But here's a tip. Get yourself a piece of rectangular clear plastic and put it down on that space. And underneath it, since it's clear plastic, you can see through it. Put down your band plan chart, any notes that you need for normal radio usage, communications, any logged adjustments. If you're going to go to a certain frequency and you've already logged your adjustments for a tuner a certain way, you can have that all written down and have it under that clear plastic so that it's always there. You can still have your notes above, your notebook above the clear plastic. Move it, look down, adjust, put your notes back. It's a great thing to have. I've got that on my desk as well. As far as lighting, be aware that many different types of LED lights produce a lot of RF noise on different frequencies throughout the HF band. And you'll definitely hear it. Sometimes it'll only be in certain sections of the HF band. Other lights will actually produce a wide band noise across a big swath of the HF spectrum. Also, lights that have ballast, sometimes the ballast isn't produced properly, or it's an old ballast and makes RF noise. Ballast lights are yeah, not good. But anyway, be selective. You will find that some lights will make noise, and you will have to either take them out of the room when using the radios or find another light. So keep that in mind. Now, you may find that the natural progression in wanting more in your radio hobby could very well be going to amateur radio. Whether you're a shortwave listener, a CBer, an AM or FM DXer, police scanner operator. Maybe you've been thinking about becoming a ham radio operator, an amateur radio operator, and you just don't know how to start it, how to get into it. Well, let me give you a little list here, some basics. First off, I should say personally for me, I kind of pushed away ham radio at first. I was into shortwave, police scanners, CB. I was, even at a young age, I was rebuilding radios, building kits. I was heavily into electronics. I really didn't think I needed ham radio when I was younger. Finally, somebody else, a friend of mine, talked me into it, and I got into it, and I'm so glad that I did, because there was so much more in the radio hobby that I was missing. And I stayed a technician class for 8 years because I enjoyed so much just of that technician privilege of what I was able to do and what I could do. I didn't even think about upgrading to general class until, of course, it came closer to the time where the 10-year mark was getting close. So that's when I decided to go and upgrade. But anyway, for those in the United States, there are a few ways to get the study info. So if you're going to be a ham operator, number one is, of course, your study book or study info. It's not a whole bunch of information. It's a very small book. For entry level into ham radio, it's called the Technician Class here in the United States. And here is a book for that specific purpose. Technician Class. It dives into many different aspects of ham radio in the technician class world. Doesn't give you everything, it just touches on a lot of points and gets you ready to be into the tech portion of the amateur radio world. And what's needed to become an entry-level FCC licensed amateur radio operator, so number one is getting the study info. Now the study info is either by book, like what I'm showing you here, or however it could be online. There's a lot of study material online. I don't even know if I want to give out the whole list. There's so many of them. I can read it to you though. There's YouTube. If you were to type in ham radio technician class license course, you'll find many different ham radio websites that are offering this for free. Just make sure that the course information is current for the year you're going to take the test. And that applies for every licensed class, tech, general, and extra. You always have to read the most recent study material to take the recent test, the newest test. So keep that in mind. For instance, this is an old book, Technician Class, 2014 to 2018. That's as much as this covers. Anything after 2018, the information, the test has changed, the info in the book has changed, so this would no longer apply for testing after 2018. This is a general class, and it's good from 2004 to 2007. So, see where I'm going with that? So anyway, yes, YouTube. There's also hamstudy.org, which is a good one. Hamtestonline.com. hamradioprep.com. And then you can get apps for either Microsoft on your phone or Apple, if you have an Apple phone. That's hamstudy.org. That is an app that goes on either one of the manufacturer's phones, so you can study on the go. There's another one that's sbarc.org. And then, of course, you've got qrz.com and you've got arrl.org, where you can get free practice tests. So once you're studying, you can go to these two sites, qrz.com or arrl.org, and take free practice tests to see how well you're doing as far as you're studying and retaining the information. Also, there's handyham.org for those folks that are handicapped or needing special requirements. Go to that site and they can help you on that. So there's online, and then there are books. As far as books, there's an author, Craig Buck, which is K4IA. He has a series of books out for the different classes of ham radio licensing. John Wasikowski, which is KE8IBH, same applies. He has the various books. The ARRL has books out for the license manuals. And then there's Gordon West. All these books that I have are Gordon West. And even my GROL book is a Gordon West. And I found that it was just easy enough for me to buy the book, study the book, no classes, have the book with me, take it wherever I'm going. You don't need to plug this in to recharge the battery. And it's your book. You can go through it with a highlighter and just mark everything. You can write in it everywhere you want. You can highlight the answer in every single question. And that's what I did. I went through it. I highlighted the answer and every single thing. Went through the whole book so that I can go back through the book from the start again and immediately read the question and the answer through the whole book to regain that information. The very first time when I'm highlighting, I'll do the question, the answer, and then read why the answer is what it is. And this book gives you that on every question, why the answer is what it is. And that's kind of why I like the Gordon West books. And I'm sure the other books by Craig Book or John Wasikowski and ARRL, they're probably just as good, and they will have the same questions and the same answers in their books. So the only difference between the authors and their books will be that they will have possibly extra information that they want to add personally to every answer. And that's about it. So, once you've got the book and you're studying, studying may take anywhere from, for technician class, depending on the person, 1 week to a month. And then they're ready for testing. You can go onto those 2 free websites and take free practice tests to see how you're doing. But while you're doing the studying, it is best to go get your FRN number, because you will need that prior to getting your test, prior to taking your test. And to get your FRN number, which is an FCC registration number, you need to go to, I've got it written down here just so I wouldn't lose it. It's wireless .fcc.gov. And you want to go to the Commission's registration system, or CORS as they call it, and then click on register and go through all the information The login, make a login and a password and all that. Keep your login and password because you will come back to the FCC website on many occasions. You will have to access the FCC website to obtain your copy of your license. They no longer send the license out by mail. So you have to go to a special segment of the FCC website where you've already given your password, login and password. Go to that site, download your official copy of your license, then you can print it out. And you'll have to do that every 10 years if you keep your license going. So every 10 years you're still going to need that password and login, so keep that. So next would be just to take the test. And of course pass the test. It's a very simple test. It's multiple choice. You don't have to get 100% to pass. It's been a long time since I've taken the test. I think you have to get a 74% to still pass. I could be mistaken on that, but I think it's 74%, which gives you a lot of leeway in case there are some sections in the book that you're still not good on. So there's that. And as far as taking the test, where to take it, these books will have a phone number in them you can call. They will direct you to the most local testing facility, the time, the date. Normally towns or cities will have 1 or 2 per month testing sites. Many times it'll be at a restaurant. I took mine at a pizza place. Different pizza places where the FCC, or not FCC, excuse me, the Amateur Radio Club members frequented for the testing, the VECs. And you just go there, take the test. They tell you if you pass. If you pass, you can take a next level test and see how well you do. If you're going for tech, you pass the tech, they can hand you a general test, you can take that. If you pass the general, you become a general. You can keep going. Many people have made it all the way through extra without even looking at an extra book, so you never know. So yeah, or you can go to the ARRL.org website and contact somebody through there. They also can give you the information for the most local testing. Some towns will have more than one testing, depending on how many ham radio clubs there are in that town. You never know. But there's always going to be somewhere possibly local to you, as long as you're somewhat close to a major town or city. And then 4 would be wait on the FCC. Because after the VECs have taken your test, graded it, and you've been passed, they still have to submit the paperwork to the Federal Communications Commission, where they will log it into their system, and then they will post it on their website. Once it's posted on the website, you then become a ham radio operator. You will see your call sign posted with your name, and you can look it up through your FRN number. If you don't know you won't know what your call sign is yet, but you can still go to the FCC website and look up look up the FRN number that you've been given prior to you going and taking the test. And if that FRN number comes up with your name and a call sign, you've got it. As far as how long it takes for the FCC to do all this, that entirely depends on if there's a holiday near the time that the information was submitted, how fast it takes the VECs to submit the information. Sometimes it takes a couple days, sometimes it takes a couple weeks. Way back when, I think it took me over 3 months to get my technician class license posted, but that's when everything was through snail mail. Yeah, once you're a ham and posted on the FCC website, you're good to go for your technician class and everything that goes with the tech class as far as your band plan and what you're approved to transmit on. And there's a lot to do. So with that, if you have any more questions, feel free to contact me or the ARRL.org, and I'll see what I can do on my behalf. And thanks a lot for listening. You guys have a great day and take care. This is Alpha Delta 7 Lima November, and I'm clear.